In today's video, I'm going to be having a review of the Aussie dollar and last week's price action. We're also going to be looking at what Warren Buffett is doing with new purchases, and we're going to be looking at US bonds. Hello and welcome to another ACysecurities market review. My name is AUDUSD Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. The first thing I'm going to be looking at, as I always generally do on the review days on Monday, is a little bit of an update about what's happening with coronavirus. At the moment, we've exceeded 25 million cases around the globe. Now, naturally, this doesn't account for how many people have actually recovered from the virus. It simply shows us an estimate of how many people have contracted the virus. Now, in addition to that, we've also seen deaths leading into the 850,000 range so far, just a little bit under, but that number is sure to climb. Now, looking at the Aussie dollar, we have seen it rise up over the week. And if you actually have a look at the trend lines I've got placed on the chart behind me, you will see that it's accelerating. Now, a part of that is actually to do with the US dollar. The Australian dollar is piggybacking on the news that we heard from Fed Powell last week about how they're going to be tackling inflation and the change in monetary policy towards the idea of moving towards fuller employment. Now, in terms of news that was out last week, the big news articles there, if you want to pause the screen, have a look and do a Google search on some of the things I've got written here, feel free. But the larger ones that I saw happening last week really came from the Fed and the Central Bank of America. Of course, we also did see some other actions coming out of the Canadian bank. We've also seen some stuff coming from Japan as well, with Shinzo Abe announcing his resignation. And now there's a lot of questions about who might be taking over. Now, naturally, we have seen some stocks slipping on the Japanese side, obviously because they're not sure what the new Prime Minister might look like or what their policy might in fact be. Now, moving on, Powell's speech has actually excited bond market purchases. Now, whilst the Fed is going towards this idea of inflation and letting it run hotter, and obviously it's not there yet. So people are getting in a little bit ahead of the jump here. The next policy decision is going to be some way through September, in the middle of September. So that will probably give us a little bit more ammo as to what they're going to be planning on doing. And we might see some more rises in the bond department, not only in purchases, but in their yields. So definitely something to keep your eye on because it will affect some of the other safe havens that we usually use at the moment. Now, looking at what's going on for Australia, Scott Morrison has called for Victoria to reopen. Now, Victoria is one of the second most populous state in Australia, and they account for 25% of Australia's GDP. Now, consumer spending in Victoria is down 30%, which is a very big number. And from there, we're seeing that the unemployment cases have risen by 7.2%. So there is a bit of a lag happening on the economy. Now, we have been discussing this idea of there being a two-geared system happening for Australia right now when it comes to their economy. One side, on the western side of the Australian continent, we do see that we have issues not so much as big as what we get on the east coast. We have a mining boom happening over there when it comes to iron ore, and so that would be the first gear, the one that is accelerating the most. Then we have the east coast with New South Wales and Queensland operating in the second gear, and I like to think of it as being a third gear, which is Victoria, which has gone stagnant. So right now they do have lockdowns and we are expecting to see more, but what we're hoping to see and what ScoMo has said that he's planning on doing is that he's looking at setting up hotspots as areas of lockdown with free trade around it. So hopefully we do see the Premier down in Victoria adhere the advice that we're hearing from ScoMo, and it will open up again. Now, looking at other parts of the world, China's banks have posted the worst declines they've had in over a decade. The profits of the largest Chinese banks have slumped roughly 10% in the first half of 2020, with some much greater in other areas or some of these smaller known banks. Now, loan loss provisions have jumped between 27% and 97%, very big numbers again. And of course, dividends are likely going to be suspended for 2021 as well. The banks in China are operating as a little bit of a backstop. They've been asked by the local government there to try and maintain and help out with the COVID response. So they are decreasing what it costs and how easy it is to get money. But we'll have to keep an eye on that situation as it goes because there is a little bit of debt starting to increase much faster than they'd probably like to. Now, looking at what Warren Buffett is doing, he has made $6 billion worth of purchases into 5 different companies out of Japan. Now, this has all sort of happened in the last few days, and he's said that they're not going to be planning to invest more than 9.9% of the value of those companies. So anything more than 9.9%, he's not going to buy in. But in reaction to that, almost all of these companies have gone up in value nearly 8% in the last few days. Some of them a little bit, even a little bit higher than that. So these might be some of the companies you want to look out for. They're written on the screen behind me, and obviously some of the names in there you'll recognize. Now, moving on for the news ahead of today and this week. It is a UK bank holiday today, so expect there to be a subdued European and London session. We have Japan consumer confidence a bit later on this afternoon. Euro, German, Italian, and Spanish CPI will be occurring today. USD, on the USD side of things, the Federal Open Market Committee, Clarita, is going to be speaking likely about inflation. So that will be banking on what we've seen from last week, piggybacking the ride from what the Fed Powell has said. We've also got an RBA rate and monetary policy statement coming out on Tuesday. So that will definitely be one to keep a close eye on. I am not expecting them to actually cut the rate, but there is a potential or possibility for them to do anything at this point in time. Particularly, they may even follow suit with what the US is doing. Now, Friday as well is non-farm payroll, so expect everything after Wednesday to be a little bit quieter once we've seen those ADP figures Wednesday night. Now, if there's anything from today's video or perhaps some of my other videos, feel free to shoot me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.